And a warm welcome to NEWSPLUS here on Viewer Television. Now, my name is Phillips Levin. President Muhammad Buhari has written to the Senate seeking confirmation of the appointment of 7 members of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC. The President based his request on Section 3, Subsection 3 and Section 7 of the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act. Buhari's request was contained in a letter read by the Senate President Ahmad Lawan on the floor of the Upper Legislative Chamber on Tuesday. The Senate has said that it will adjourn plenary next week to allow lawmakers to have time for campaigns for the forthcoming elections. The Senate had just resumed plenary from a 3-week break after it adjourned plenary on December 28, 2022. The Senate President Ahmad Lawan on Tuesday disclosed during the plenary that after the week's work, they would suspend plenary for the sake of the elections. He noted that the break will enable lawmakers contesting for various offices during the general elections to carry out necessary campaigns in their various constituencies. He, however, said the Senate might suspend activities this week if it can deal with urgent issues requiring its attention, so it does not have to sit next week. The Speaker, House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, has stressed that political actors should ensure that politics-related conversations seek to unite the people by highlighting an agenda of shared prosperity, social development, and respect for humanity. This is against the backdrop of increased politics-related attacks in parts of the country. The Speaker, at the resumption of plenary, noted that the nature of political conversations, particularly in the lead up to election, determines electoral outcomes and the quality of governance. He therefore urged Nigerians to unite and ensure that the dangerous trend of insecurity and attacks on political actors does not lead to circumstances that threaten the forthcoming general election.
In a marked increase in incidents of insecurity and vicious attacks on political actors in parts of the country, we must unite to ensure this dangerous trend does not lead to circumstances that threaten the forthcoming elections. The quality of the political conversations in society, particularly in the lead-up to elections, is a determining factor in the electoral outcomes and the quality of governance that will result therefrom. When political discourse seeks to unite the people behind an agenda of shared prosperity, social development, and respect for the humanity of persons, governance will also reflect these priorities. The security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. With these words, the Constitution obligates us all who swear to serve the government to do everything to protect the lives and property of all citizens and promote their well-being above all else. This obligation is central to the governing contract between the government and the citizenry.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has urged the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, Federal Ministry of Finance, and Federal Inland Revenue Service and other related stakeholders to explore Executive Order 007 of 2019, that's Road Infrastructure Development and Refurbishment Investment Tax Credit Scheme, to provide an alternative funding source to finance the reconstruction of Bida Lemu Wushishi Zungeru Road in Niger State. Now, in a motion sponsored by Saidu Abdullahi, raised concerns that despite the approval of the Minister of Works and Housing for the redesign and reconstruction of the road, the amount captured in the 2023 Appropriation Act for the road is grossly inadequate and cannot make any significant impact on the project. The lawmaker noted that if the Bida Zungeru Truck A road is reconstructed, it will enhance the western link of the country to the Zungeru hydropower project, which will generate 700 megawatts of electricity, close to 10% of the nation's total domestic energy need, and have a positive impact on the country's GDP through enhanced agricultural productivity and commercial activities.
The House notes that the 92-kilometer Bida-Zungeru Road is the preeminent link route between the north and southwestern Nigeria, which was first constructed by Costain West Africa in 1962 during the First Republic and reconstructed by the Babangida administration in 1989. Also note that aside from the recent maintenance on some failed portion of the road through the COVID-19 intervention by FEMA, no rehabilitation has been carried out on the Trompe Road and its bridges since it was rehabilitated over 30 years ago. Aware that Zungeru Town plays host to the ongoing 700 megawatt hydroelectric power station project embarked on by the federal government of Nigeria at the cost of $1.3 billion. The project is part of the federal government strategy to reposition power generation in phases in the country, and upon completion, we have the recognition of a strategic national asset. Also aware that the area from Bida to Zungeru is a major rice belt with huge potential for other agricultural produce that can hugely contribute to the country's drive at food security.
The federal government is yet to introduce the human papillomavirus vaccines into the national immunization schedule, amongst also 3 years after it made the promise. Now, HPV is the most common viral infections of the reproductive tract, mainly transmitted through sexual contact, and most people became infected with HPV shortly after the onset of sexual activity. The World Health Organization said 2 HPV types, 16 and 18, are responsible for nearly 50% of high-grade cervical pre-cancers. But vaccination against HPV and screening treatment of pre-cancer lesions are cost-effective ways to prevent cervical cancer. In his remark at the flag-off event for the Integrated Medical Outreach Program on March 16, 2020, Vice President Yemi Oshibanjo promised that in the next couple of months, the rotavirus and human papillomavirus vaccines will be introduced into the national immunization schedule. While the federal government launched the rotavirus vaccine 29 months after the promise, it has yet to introduce the HPV vaccines into routine immunization 35 months after the promise. The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has warned the public against the use and purchase of 2 contaminated products called Ambronol syrup and Doc-1 Max syrup. NAFDAC, in a statement, disclosed that the 2 medical products were identified in Uzbekistan, a Central Asian nation, and reported to the World Health Organization. The agency stated that the contaminated products failed to meet the quality standards after laboratory analysis, and it was discovered that both products contain unacceptable amounts of ethylene glycol or ethylene glycol as contaminants test. Now, according to NAFDAC, the ethylene glycol and ethylene glycol found in these products are toxic to humans when consumed and can provide fatal and toxic effects. NAFDAC, however, urged members of the public in possession of the substandard product to discontinue usage, sale, and submit stock to its nearest office. We'll go on a quick break, and when we return, News Plus continues.
Two souls together. Forever now.
Tat Fragrance, the new luxury fragrance for men and women.
Hey, let's get to advertise your products and services on our platform. Viewer Television is here to give your business a boost with a touch of professionalism. If you're a brand owner, entrepreneur, proud business owner, let's place your business in the face of your customers. Contact us so we can talk business on 081-2121-2278 or info@viewertv.com.ng. Always remember, we are here for you.
Hello and welcome back. This is still NEWSPLUS. Now moving forward, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, said that general elections will be held in spite of the various attacks on the commission facilities across the nation. Addressing an audience at Chatham House, London, Tuesday afternoon, Yakubu decried the increasing speed of attacks on INEC's facility in form of arson, but reassured the audience that the Commission will go ahead with the election as scheduled. Professor Yakubu also noted it is satisfied with the preparation done so far ahead of 2023 election. Furthermore, the chairman of the Commission said that the 2023 general election is an election for the young people in Nigeria. Now, giving a breakdown of voter registration and collection of permanent voters card in Nigeria at his address, Yakubu said records on the ground shows that the election will be dominated by Nigerian youths. The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, says the electoral body has concluded a policy on diaspora voting. The federal government in 2017 put the number of Nigerians in the diaspora at 17 million. However, many more citizens have since left for foreign countries in a wave commonly referred to as Japa. Addressing the recurrent issues around legalizing diaspora voting, the INEC chairman expressed hope that the legal obstacles preventing foreign-based Nigerians from voting will be cleared eventually. Yakubu disclosed this while delivering a lecture at Chatham House in London on Tuesday afternoon on the topic Nigeria's 2023 elections, preparations and priorities for electoral integrity and inclusion. Meanwhile, the Independent National Electoral Commission has revealed that it will conduct mock accreditation nationwide ahead of the 2023 general elections. The INEC chairman said the mock accreditation will be carried out across selected polling units to ascertain the integrity of bimodal voter accreditation system before the main election begins in February. Yakubu, however, further revealed that every BVA's machine deployed across the 774 local government had been tested, adding that the functionality of the machines was impressive. He also stated that backup machines have been readily provided in case of system glitches. Now, the Academic Staff Union of Universities may drag the federal government over its members' 8-month withheld salaries. Also will resort to the court. It was learned once the government goes ahead to pay members of the parallel union, the Congress of Nigerian University Academics Council of ASU, Femi Falana, disclosed this in an interview. The federal government, through the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, is set to pay the withheld salaries and allowances of lecturers under the aegis of CONUA. This was contained in a memo addressed to the President Konwa, Dr. Nini Samonu, by the Director Integrated Personal Payroll Information System, Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, Charles Wiley, recalled the government withheld the salaries of Nigerian lecturers during the 8-month strike by ASU. Also, during the strike, the government also registered Konwa as a trade union. The United Nations Children Fund, UNICEF, has warned that 25 million Nigerians risk severe hunger in 2023 if actions is not taken. Now, according to the agency, this is a rise from the 17 million persons earlier projected to face food insecurity in the country. Conflicts, climate change, inflation, and rising Now, the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, has warned that 25 million Nigerians risk severe hunger in 2023 if actions is not taken. Now, according to the agency, this is a rise from 17 million persons earlier projected to face food insecurity in the country. Now, conflicts, climate change, inflation, and rising food prices are the key drivers, it said. While commenting on the development, the resident and humanitarian coordinator for Nigeria, Matthias Schmale, said it is deeply concerning. It therefore called on Nigerian governor, donor agency, and other key stakeholders to take urgent steps to mitigate the situation. The Nigeria Immigration Service has warned the general public and eligible applicants not to pay anyone to get a recruitment into the service. NIS, in a statement, said the recruitment process is free and selection is based on merit. Immigration recently opened its portal for the 2023 recruitment of interested applicants across the country into the Civil Defense, Correctional, Fire, and Immigration Service Board departments. The government agency said that it does not take part in any form of cash transaction during the recruitment process. NIS urged the public and applicants to report any of the personnel caught collecting money to the police or any relevant anti-corruption agency. Meanwhile, the application for recruitment into immigration to fill vacancies began on Monday, January 16, 2023, and will end on Monday, January 30th, 2 weeks after. And away from Nigeria, Al-Shabaab launched a deadly attack on a Somali military base on Tuesday, just a day after the government claimed a historic victory over the jihadists with the capture of strategic coastal town. There were conflicting reports about the death toll after the Islamic fighters stormed the camp in the town of Hawadli, north of the capital of Mogadishu. Army Chief Odua Rege said on national radio that 5 soldiers, including a senior officer, had died in the attack claimed by the Al-Qaeda allied militant group. In recent months, the army and local clan militias have retaken chunks of territory from the militants in Galmudug and Hirshabelle states in an operation backed by US airstrikes and an African Union force. But despite the gains, Al-Shabaab has demonstrated the ability to strike back with lethal force against civilian and military targets. The United Nations, United States, and France have called for the unconditional release of dozens of women kidnapped in Burkina Faso's northern Soum province between January 12th and 13th. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, said that he was alarmed by the kidnappings in the first attack of this type, deliberately targeting women in Burkina Faso. The U.S. State Department said it was deeply concerned. In a statement, France condemned the kidnappings and called for the women's immediate release. No group has said it was behind the abduction, but the kidnappings took place in an area where militants were active. Now, industrial actions looked set for intensify on Monday after Britain's largest teaching union announced a series of strike days over pay next month in England and Wales. The National Education Union and its members voted overwhelmingly to walk out as part of calls for an above-inflation fee rise. The announcement came as public sector workers hold a wave of walkouts for salaries to take into account double-digit inflation. The union leader are set to meet the education minister on Wednesday. The union announced a national strike day on February 1st, followed by a series of more regional strikes over 6 days in February and March. It said each school will only be affected for 4 days. Meanwhile, this week, nurses in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland were also due to resume strike actions on Wednesday and Thursday. China's population shrank last year for the first time in more than 6 decades, official data showed Tuesday, as the world's most populous country faces a looming demographic crisis. The nation of 1.4 billion has seen birth rates plunged to record low as its workforce ages in rapid decline. The analysts warn cool schemic economic growth and power pressure on strained public coffers. The last time China's population declined was in the early 1960s, as the country battled the worst famine in its modern history, a result of the disastrous Mao Zedong agricultural policy known as the Great Leap Forward.
居住在31个省、自治区、直辖市的港澳台居民和外籍人员是14.1亿人，比上年末减少85万人，全年出生人口956。
China ended its strict one-child policy imposed in the 1980s owing to fears of overpopulation in 2016 and began allowing couples to have 3 children in 2021. But that has failed to reverse the demographic decline for a country that has long relied on its vast workforce as a driver of economic growth. Meanwhile, residents of Beijing and Shanghai give their views.
这可能是必然的趋势吧，因为现在应该是00后刚好到20多岁的一个阶段，然后大部分的年轻人现在都不太想生孩子，包括现在这个经济情况啊，这个社会的环境，所以可能导致了一些这样的人情况。
那问题现在国家那个新政策啊，鼓励生3胎也好的话，具体实施起来也并不太容易啊，因为毕竟那个养孩子各方面生活成本还比较高啊，经济是一方面，包括你家庭人口，比如老年人是吧？你抚养孩子花出的时间和精力啊，这个在现在就是说就业啊那个压力比较大的情况下，也是一个比较困难的。
还真是不太，就是这些事儿，就是也都，你像我是80后的话，可能不是很想考虑生孩子这些事儿。如果自己能自给自足的话，可能连对象都不想找。大部分人我觉得现在也都是差不多这种想法吧。
And finally, Vietnam President Nguyen Phuoc has resigned, state media said Tuesday, after days of rumors he was about to be sacked as part of major anti-corruption drive that has seen several ministers fired. Phoc's sudden departure is a highly unusual move in communist Vietnam, where political changes are normally carefully orchestrated with an emphasis on cautious stability. State media said the Communist Party had ruled he was responsible for wrongdoing by senior minister under him during his 2016-2021 stint as prime minister before he became president. 2 deputy prime ministers were sacked this month in an anti-corruption purge that has led to the arrest of dozens of officials, with many of the graft allegations relating to deals done as part of Vietnam's COVID pandemic response. At least 100 officials and business people, including Dam's assistant had been arrested in connection with a scandal involving the distribution of COVID-19 testing kits. And with that, we end News Plus. Well, on behalf of the rest of the production team, my name is Philip Slivin. So have a great day.